Okay, movie review. Elsa and Fred, 2014. Brief comments from a review that I read. Throughout his career, British director Michael Radford has been making films about couples of various kinds, from the urban Brits of 1984 to the rural Italians of Il Postino. In his remake of the 2005 Spanish-Argentinian hit Elsa and Fred, a rumpled widower played by Christopher Plummer, who won his first Oscar at age 82 not too long back for Beginners, moves into the same New Orleans apartment building as a vivacious, fabulous Shirley MacLaine. 80-year-old Fred, who describes himself as the dead living, spends his days sleeping or playing video games with his grandson Jared Gilman, who was in Moonrise Kingdom. I can't remember him. While 74-year-old Elsa dreams of wading through Rome's Trevi fountain, a bit like Anita Ekberg did in Fellini's 1960 film La Dolce Vita. This seems unintentionally ironic. Against all odds, they hit it off, and Elsa becomes the life force to Fred's Harold the Deaf foray. By the time friendship turns to romance, light comedy segues into twinkly sentimentality, and the film fizzles out. For a more convincing take on late in life romances, look no further than Paul Cox's 2000 Innocence, which doesn't try so hard to ingratiate. MacLaine and Plummer are good together, but Elsa and Fred is only so-so. Just a brief reminder of the credits before we get to my comments. Directed by Michael Radford, the original screenplay, a combination of 5 pens: Marcos Carnevali, Marcella Aguetti, and Martin, and then adapted a little bit by Anna Pagnani and Michael Radford. Cast: Shirley MacLaine plays Elsa, Christopher Plummer is Fred, Marcia Gay Harden plays Lydia, I think that's Fred's daughter. Wendell Pierce is Armanda, he's another son of Elsa, I think. Jared Gilman, grandson, of course, mentioned earlier, and George Segal turns up as John, and James Brolin also turns up as Max, renowned actors, of course, in their own right. So let's have a look at it. The film opens as we see the credits, and alongside a musical score, we see a silhouetted replay of the scene from Fellini's La Dolce Vita at the Tivoli Fountain, with Anita Ekberg, blonde and stunning, and Marcello Mastroianni, a film that I thoroughly recommend you to watch. Not Fellini's best, but even Fellini's worst is better than most garbage that comes out these days in Hollywood. Fred's things are being delivered to his new apartment, and the people that are conducting the furniture movement up the stairs come across Elsa on the way down, and we then come across the first very humorous scene. This is a comedy, I felt, where Elsa slips into her car and doesn't really take a great deal as she decides to reverse out of the spot and smacks the car behind her, and then does a runaway. A situation that I'm all too familiar with from my murky past, and it's quite amusing how she sort of has a sort of a quick glance at it and thinks, oh well, if I get away quickly nobody will ever notice. which is exactly how I felt. We then meet Fred as he arrives in the taxi, and just the opening shots from these two legends of the cinema, MacLaine and Plummer, suggests that this film is going to be worth a look, even if perhaps the screenplay isn't up to much. But I can't wait. As the family find out about the dent in the back of the car, it appears that it's owned by the daughter, Fred's daughter and husband, and he arrives a little later, actually quite upset about the fact that he only left it a couple of hours ago. We then switch to Elsa, who's tuned into some rap on her car radio. 74 and 82 or whatever these people are. What a great example to us elderly. I hope I can keep going like this once I shrug off this bad back. There's a lot happening in this film. Incidentals, but I'm going to tell you about it. For example, Elsa comes back with her son, and he wants to talk about the rate at which she's spending from her account that he obviously has access to. Fred has got to accommodate a home care aide, a very attractive African American woman, and they try to work out what she's going to do, and of course he's interested in only a part of her duties, and makes it plain that he's not really that impressed with going to the park twice a day, which is what his daughter told the home care aide as part of her role. So you can see what's going to happen down the road here initially. It's lovely. It's real. Okay, it's set in New Orleans. It's a little bit middle class because of the money, of course, but nevertheless, it's a very appealing, and it presents, of course, a major problem in society: what to do with your elderly family. The two parties collide over the car, and it then becomes evident that Elsa hasn't kept up with the insurance, and so they can't deal with the damage, and she's failed in keeping the young boy quiet, and we can see that we're going to have a series of problems that are going to cause headaches to those families who are trying to look after these two people. Films are made up of great scenes, and there's a great scene next where Elsa comes by with the check to Fred's apartment, and then pleads poverty to Fred and creates a number of financial headaches that she has to cope with, and that the amount of money demanded in the estimate for the repair of the car could take care of a number of those headaches, and she manages to convince young Fred, whose heart is taken by the sob story, and he then basically gives in and decides not to accept the cash. And it reminded me of what happens here on a very, very regular basis in the bars in the tourist places here in Thailand, when sort of relatively rich foreigners from Europe principally and Scandinavia arrive in the tourist places here, that usually they come without family, because they're dying to get their hands on the young, beautiful Thai women. And then no sooner have they sort of got into their second beer with the newly acquired friend, the friend then delivers in rather patchy English a sob story about their mother being sick, or that they need some cash to take care of the cow on the rice fields, etc, etc, etc. And this usually leads to an exchange of cash by the foreigner to the young girl, because he's really so transfixed by her beauty and what he's going to do to her later on, that money appears to be completely superfluous at that moment. I just thought I'd share that story because it rang bells, and that's what movies are all about, really, aren't they? To quote a couple of lines from the film, the home care lady says to Fred, I'm going out to the shop or whatever, anything you need? And Fred replies, yes, being 30 years younger and having the prostate the size of a peanut. So funny. As Elsa and Fred's relationship starts to develop slowly, we have a scene where it's perhaps a little bit more of a reality check rather than humour. She asks him what he's got out of his 80 years of life, and the list is short and absent of fun, and it's quite sad, really. But I guess it's got to reflect how that might be for us all in our lives as we age. Thoughts on life after Elsa tries to get Fred to take to the dancing lessons routine, which he rejects. We have a scene with the grandson who asks his grandfather, why is everybody pissed off? And we get a sort of reality check on life as he describes the problems his mother has, the problems his father has, the problems that he has living in that environment, blah 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 blah. Insight, definitely. Predictably, one of them develops sickness. Elsa, shortness of breath. The movie moves into happy mode now as we see a series of activities by the pair, walking around, having ice cream, buying things, him having a shave, and it's sort of basically, you know, first love, puppy love, for the over 70s, and it's happy. The movie now has become 100% sentimentality, as per the review that I read. But I have to say that I think the review did a slight disservice to the first half of the movie, but now it is becoming really typical Hollywood. Let's get the tears out. Let's predictably have the happiness mixed with the sadness, and the acting has become sort of secondary to some extent. So predictably, well, I'm sure you can predict this, as Elsa's health slowly deteriorates, Fred decides to make a dream come true, a one that she started way before she met Fred, the one that you see right at the beginning of the movie. And what a beautiful place it is, having been there myself.